Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance. Join our hosts as they discuss a wide range of topics and speak with leading cybersecurity, technology, and compliance experts. Now is the time for Secure Talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Secure Talk. Secure Talk is brought to you by Adequest, your cybersecurity and compliance partner. My name is Mark Schreiner, and I will be your host for this episode of Secure Talk. Today, we have a very special guest joining us. We have Mr. Ori Eisen, CEO of Trusona. Trusona is an amazing company. They're doing some really cool things with passwordless technology. But instead of me describing it to you, well, let's just get Ori on here, and he can tell us a little bit about what Trusona does. First off, hi, Ori. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having us, Mark.
Thank you for joining us. Before we jump into what Trusona does, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your background, and then we can jump into Trusona.
I've spent the last 20 years in different roles, whether it's banking or in crypto or in, startups, protecting internet logins and identities. I've done it as a merchant and as a practitioner. And what I've realized is when you boil down all the headlines we see in the papers today, namely breaches and all these things, you can see that in many of the cases, it boils down to a simple password that somebody could either glean or guess or get. And I chose this as my mission, to remove passwords from the internet. It's time.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, a lot of times people have this image of hackers of being this, super secret cloak and dagger, highly sophisticated NSA type people or group. And maybe they are, but in reality, oftentimes the breaches are just launched by a malware. Somebody clicks on something they shouldn't click, or they use a really simple password, something like 12345, something like that. But it really comes down to just some of those simple avenues of attack and then blocking them off. How does Trusona help in that case?
So what Trusona pioneered is a way to log in into anything, namely websites, call centers, could be an ATM screen, without the user needing to remember a password nor type it. And the way it works is that we allow the fact that most of us have a phone in our pocket to represent our identity. So the first step is to register or to prove to Trusona or to your bank that is indeed you. And then the fact that you have your phone on you and that you unlock it with biometrics all the time to represent that as the token, if you may, that will open the door for you. So you can live your entire life from now on if you have a phone on you without passwords. And I think we have to move there, so the bad guys will have a harder time getting into accounts.
That's amazing. And, I have seen Trusona in action. I'm impressed with it. At the same time, passwords have been such an important part of our paradigm for so long that it's really hard to believe that it can actually work or that passwords can be replaced. Are you facing that kind of any kind of obstacles related to that?
Yeah, I hear that all the time, and my retort will be this. I'm sure the person who invented the fax machine heard that from people who said, but we've used papers for thousands of years. And I'm sure the person who invented email heard that. Well, we have fax now. Why do we need this? Can you imagine your life today without email? I mean, it's just hard to imagine. And I do think that once we get over that mental hump of, we can have a life without passwords, that will just happen. And then your grandchildren will ask you, Grandpa, what's a password, right? I mean, it can happen. We are the people in the way, not anything else. It's just inertia and the ability to realize you really don't need passwords. It's just something that we started and we can't get off of easily. I agree. But now you have the technology, and all the research shows that if you give users this option, 7 out of 10 will just jump on it because they hate passwords.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who's a big fan of passwords, but we all seem to be afraid to let go of them. So let's dig a little deeper into the weeds. Tell me a little bit more how actually Trusona works. I mean, it sounds, you say, well, hey, you just carry your phone, and then with your phone you won't need a password. But explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have 3 levels of the solution. I'll start with the simplest one. that is really commensurate with logging in to watch Netflix videos, for example, something that is not high security or anything like that. What we do, and I would urge everyone who listens to just go to the App Store and play with the app, even though we sell SDKs to larger companies to embed this experience. For every person who wants to try it, we just have an app in the App Store that the very first thing it asks you is for your email. And I'm sure everybody has an email or more than one. And once you provide that email, we literally send what's called a magic link, which is a one-time email that says, did you really mean to register for this account? And the minute you click on that link, we are establishing that whoever is now registering for this account has access to that email address. And just to be specific, I may know your email, Mark, but I can't get into it to read it. So on principle, only you'd be able to go click on that link. So in that lowest level of account, we call that essential, we are tying your phone to that email address. And what happens next is that we drop a certificate, that phone that is cryptographically signed, and then only that is being exchanged out of your phone. So what we have prevented in our architecture is we will never send your credentials over the wire, because then we're part of the problem. And we have turned a very simple password to a long one, but it's still something that the attacker could listen to. So all we do, we use certificates to assert that this is Mark's phone. And because you're protecting your phone already, either with a 6-digit PIN or with a fingerprint, you leave your phone at a bar or at an airport, no one should be able to just pick it up and become you. So now imagine you go to your bank or you go to Netflix and you have two options: log in with username and password. Boo. You can still do that if you want. Or you have another button that says log in without a password or easy login. And once you click on it, our technology shows on the screen a QR code that is a one-time code that changes every 30 seconds. And the minute you scan with your phone that code, we tell Netflix, hey, because we verified Mark's email, this is Mark on the other end, let him in.
That's awesome. And I can actually, I can very much verify and relate to that, because a couple of years ago, I started using Trusona on some of the WordPress sites that I manage. And I got so tired of maintaining passwords, changing passwords, and then where do you keep them in a secure space? And what if you don't have access to that secure space? And it's just, But like you said, you always have your phone, or at least I do. And I could log into one of 5 different sites, and I didn't have to have a password. I would just use the Trusona app, and it was super easy to use.
I do the same, by the way. I have 3 different blogs, and it's free in WordPress, and I just don't even know my password anymore. I just use my phone.
Okay, you mentioned that was the first level of service. What are the second and third levels?
Yeah, the second level of service we offer is called Executive. It is completely free if you download the app. It allows you to scan a driver license and establish further that you're not only the owner of that email account, which we did in the first level, but you're also this identity. The word Trusona is really a fusion of true and persona. And really our job is to help the banks and the healthcare companies know who is trying to access your account. So that level is called Executive. And again, you can try it today. It's a higher level of authentication than just having access to that email box.
Sounds great. And are you seeing, in terms of the first level service, second level service, what's your breakdown in terms of your customer base?
About 85% use our basic level because, again, there's this no password wave or revolution, if you may, that is taking the industry by storm. A lot of people started projects about this. And some people who need extra level of assurance, namely banking, healthcare, and the universities who have rules about not just giving your grades to anybody, they're using our identity proofing step as an extra layer of security.
Okay. And go ahead and tell us about the third level.
The third level is how Trusona began. It's called Elite. It is the world's first and only insured authentication, as in if you, Mark, use it and there's fraud, Our product is backed by an underwriter. There is no other product on earth that got insurance other than us. And it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everyday use, clearly. But we challenged our team to make the world's first product that is absolutely positively going to identify who's on the other end. And if you think about access to nuclear power plant or wiring $50 million or heck, voting, right? You want to absolutely know that it's the person. That's when you use that kind of a technology, but it's not for the average user.
Well, and then how does that work?
What happens in that product is it begins with what's called in-person identity proofing. You can't do it by phone, can't do it by mail. We need to meet you, and we have a few options of doing that. So if you take a big bank, you either come to the branch to prove your identity, or if you're like a very famous celebrity, a private wealth manager will come to your home. But the insurance policy dictates that you need to meet the person in real life. The second is need to show you a passport, so not a driver license or a library card. You need to show a passport because it has high level of security built into it. And the third part is in that meeting, after you establish your identity, you are given a token that connects to your phone. And I'll give you the high level of how this token works because it has never been broken. What most of us have in our wallets are cards like credit cards and AAA cards, Costco cards that have a magnetic strip on the back of it. And one of my jobs before in my career was at a credit card company. So I've learned how these cards operate and how they work. It's very easy today to copy the magnetic strip, the data on it, and put it on another card. Crooks do it all day. But what they can't do is copy the magnetic makeup of the card, meaning if you use the microscope on the magnetic strip, you'll actually see that there's small tiny particles called ferrite particles kind of strewn inside the magnetic strip. And when our card reader scans one of your cards, we literally are lifting where are those particles, almost like freckles on a face, and no two cards are the same. So if we registered your card to have the following fingerprint, there's no way that any other card in the world will have exactly the same makeup. And that's the credential that we give for that insured product.
That sounds like some super cool James Bond stuff right there, man. That's awesome. Let me ask you, can you give some examples of deployments? And you don't have to mention company names. If you can, that would be great. But walk us through a couple different scenarios where you've actually gone out and deployed at the enterprise level.
Got it. So some of our customers want to remain nameless just because of the nature of what they do. So I'll mention healthcare companies and universities. On WordPress, as you mentioned yourself, you can see our stuff in action because you can just install it yourself. And as you'll hear companies adding a no password option, just wink because most likely it will be Trusona.
So what you're saying is that some of your customers have just basically white labeled the solution.
That is correct.
Well, can you give us like some examples of okay, so you say universities, right? So this would be university employees, but also for students?
Yeah, also for students. What I'll do, Mark, is I'll send you a couple of URLs so that you can share with folks who are listening so they can go see a website that has Trusona and they can see the experience.
Excellent. Hey, we do a lot of work related to GDPR, and one of the issues or one of the requirements under GDPR is the right to be forgotten, the right of rectification, which means if I'm an EU resident and you have some data, you being some company or some type of organization have some data that relates to me, I have the right to call you up and say, hey, I want you to delete all that data or make changes or amendments to that data. In many different scenarios. Obviously, if we have a business relationship and the data is essential to that, I can't make that request because that would, disturb the business relationship. But let me back up. In that scenario where I'm calling organization A, let's just say it's Air France, and I say, Air France, I want you to delete all my data. There's no reason you should have me in your customer loyalty program. Air France would need to verify that I am who I am. Okay.
Correct.
That I am actually Mark Schreiner.
Correct.
How can Trusona help in a situation like that?
So many of our projects currently are in the EU related to GDPR and PSD2 because there's a lot of regulation that is moving towards better multi-factor authentication and the right to be forgotten. As or if you have your driver license or your passport, that is a way better method to know that it's on the other end than somebody who's just reciting your information. After Equifax breach, you can only assume that many bad guys have all your information and they can just recite it. But having the actual document with exams that you can scan further go to prove that it is you, and then we can delete all your data.
Let me jump tracks here for a second. From what I understand, Trusona has a relationship with Microsoft. What can you tell us about that?
So Microsoft led our Series B investment last year after seeing do literally, wow, this is the future of how logins should look like. They're also working with us on integration. So we have one announced to the Azure cloud, executive authentication if you are hosting items in Azure. And I don't hold their thunder, but this year we will be able to use our essential level and Azure as well. So anybody who doesn't want to use passwords will be able to add Trusona to open their consoles and their admin controls.
Wow. Well, that's I would think, a huge legitimizer, the fact that, Microsoft's an investor and you're working on integrations with them. It doesn't get any bigger, and Microsoft is all about security these days. I mean, the whole movement to the cloud is the foundation of that is protecting people's information when it's out there. So that's a big, huge vote of confidence. What can you tell us in terms of deployment numbers or users, or what kind of metrics can you share with us?
Yeah, so we have over 750 customers, and they're ranging from Fortune 500 companies all the way to mom and pop folks who just have a WordPress site and they don't want to use a password. And this year we're working on very large projects to increase the numbers to millions and millions.
Great. What are your biggest challenges? Is it competition? Is it paradigm shift? Is it just resources? What are your challenges to get this out in everybody's hands?
I think it's the paradigm shift. It's a lot of people, even when you show them that they can have a life without passwords, it requires work to go and so our job as evangelists is just to say, look how great your life could be, look how great your consumer's life would be. And look, every pioneer who ever wanted to change how things had to have the same struggle. This is my fourth startup, so I understand how the world works, but it is not beyond us. If somebody who listens to this wants to have an enterprise without passwords, they can. You just need to decide that you want to. It's that simple.
Okay, and let's just say I'm an enterprise and I want to do this. What should I do? I just go to your website. You got any suggestions?
Yeah, so if you're an enterprise that just wants to use our app out of the App Store, we actually don't charge. It's completely free. Just go get keys to our production site and you're off to the races. You don't pay us a dime because we want to see a world without passwords. Clearly, the bigger the brand, just like you, Mark, right? You use our app in order to get to your blogs, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, so any business who's okay with using the Trusona app can just have it. Hard stop, free, just use it. If you're a big brand that wants to embed DKs into your app, then you pay us. It's about $1 per user per year. And again, all the logins from there on be without password. That's simple. You can go to our website, ask to get a demo or see some of the videos. We won Best of Show at Finovate with both of our products, Central and Executive. So if you need more industry validation of what the top companies who are evaluating innovations think, they voted with there. And I would invite any executive or any CISO or anybody who wants to have a life without passwords to come have a conversation with us.
Well, Ori, hey, I got to say that we're kind of winding down on our time here, but you and your team really are doing something that can make the world a quote unquote better place. It just makes life so much more simple, man, and it's about time. that this is, that a solution like this has come along, and it looks like you've got with the support of Microsoft and your current customer base that you're getting to some type of critical mass. I wish you and your team the best. Any parting comments or thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
There's one article I would love your users to listen to or know. On our homepage, if you go to trusona.com/love, LOVE, you'll see research that we've published recently that shows that if you give consumers the option, 7 out of 10 will just jump without being prompted. They just don't like passwords. And I'm saying it because some of the people who are listening might think, well, this is great technology and the guy is just saying it, but maybe my customers won't want this feature. The jury is already out on that. So go read, educate yourself, and help make the world a better place, because the bad guys will have a harder time getting into accounts, and God help us, we will live a life without passwords.
And I can say amen to that. I've seen multiple consumer sites or B2C sites that one of the biggest issues is that initial customer engagement. But then when customers come back, if they've forgotten their password, or if you force them to change, if it becomes a hassle, you don't get those follow-up orders, right? People will drop. And if you can make it super easy for people to just visit your site and carry on as usual, regardless of what machine that they're using, where they're at, when they're dialing it, it's just, hey, they've got the Trusona app or some other passwordless solution. Gosh, man, it makes life easy. Hey, Ori, I really appreciate your time. And again, the work that you and your team is doing is amazing. I look forward to talking to you again and hopefully meeting you in person someday.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mark.
Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance. Join our hosts as they discuss a wide range of topics and speak with leading cybersecurity, technology, and compliance experts. Now is the time for Secure Talk.